Welcome to the Penny Bloom Podcast. Ain't another place that has got more bombast. Romp past your mom, dad's listening to Tomcats. Talking everything that make you sad. We don't want that. We're here to make you smile. Put your mind at ease. Peace, love, and bloom, and always praise Keanu Reeves. This what we about. This some weeding now. We'll talk until we can't no more, and then we peacing out. Alright, let's go. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. It's the Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast. Penny Bloom Podcast.
Hello, everybody, and welcome in to the Penny Bloom Podcast. And this is the start of a brand new project. This is the start of something new, as was said in the wonderful High School Musical. We are starting the director's spotlight. And the first director that is going under the spotlight is one Wes Anderson, as we hotly await his new film, Asteroid City. We are starting today with the Royal Tenenbaums. I am Colton Robertson, and I am joined by Joseph George. What's up, homie?
Oh, what up, what up? Always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. Like I said, the Royal Tenenbaums originally premiered at the New York Film Festival on October 5th, 2001. It was written by Owen Wilson and Wes Anderson and directed by Wes Anderson with cinematography by Robert Yeoman. And man, I'm excited for this project, man. You said that you've been itching to get into a little bit of Wes Anderson, and now's the time.
Yeah.
How you feeling after this one?
Yeah.
One down.
Oh, I'm definitely glad that I've begun the Wes Anderson train, because I'm not hopping off anytime soon. And I don't know, he's been a director that I've just heard so much about, but I've just never gotten around to watching his movies. And I've heard that he's just so unique and just so different. And I had no idea how, or really any way. And then I just start seeing some like clips from his movies and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, I just gotta see. I gotta see for myself now. I gotta get into this. And then this project came along, perfect timing as well. So, yeah, I couldn't have asked for a better timing. And for a first viewing, I was very shocked, as in it didn't go the direction I thought it would at all. I knew nothing about this movie at all. Going into it, I just went in full blind, just started it. No trailer, no synopsis, no anything.
It's the way to do it.
But it was, I don't know, it was so enjoyable and just so different. Such a unique, like, movie experience. And yeah,
man.
I'm loving it. So
this was actually the last Wes Anderson movie I've made my way around to. I've watched all the other ones, and this was a first viewing for me. But I don't have any others of those on our little run of 8 up until Asteroid City, obviously. But yeah, man, I really, really enjoyed it. I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful little movie. I think there's something about Gene Hackman where if he is a part of a movie, that movie is going to be better because of it.
Yeah.
That man is just so fucking good at what he does, man. It's impeccable. And that's the thing we were talking about off mic, the balance of like comedy with the dramatic and the melancholic that Wes Anderson strikes here in the Royal Tenenbaums. And there is no better example of that. Well, there's a couple examples, but Royal Tenenbaum is a really, really peak example. A man who's regretful of his life decisions, but doesn't actually realize he's regretful of it yet. He recognizes that it's what he's supposed to do, is make amends with his family, but he doesn't know. It's not until he starts doing it that he realizes he always wanted to do that. And there's something so lovable about this whole family, this eccentric, zany group of characters who all, in some way, hate each other, but are family. You know, the tagline for this movie was I think it was like, family isn't a word, it's a sentence. Like
wow.
Like it's a sentence. You are sentenced to life with your family.
Yeah, I love how I think that's why this movie kind of like I'm trying to figure out why I got actually connected to these characters so much, because like they're all crazy and like they're all just so eccentric, and like one's just a superstar tennis player, one's a a master. I don't know. Margot is very interesting to me. I was trying to figure out if like she was, because she was more in like into the arts and stuff, right? Kind of like into
she was a playwright,
and I thought that Eli Cash was like the front, just like the symbol for all of Margot's writing and everything. It was actually Margot's writing, but then like I don't know, it actually didn't go there. And like so, I thought that she, I don't know, like was gonna have more going there. But like that's the thing, is that
interesting.
All of where I thought this movie was gonna go was the complete wrong direction. Like nowhere even near.
That's what's so fascinating about the way Wes Anderson's writing typically goes. It takes not the mundane, because this isn't boring, but what you expect to be like, oh, there could be conspiracy and there could be all this and there could be all that. It's actually much more simple than that. Yeah. And he makes it so much more grandiose in that setting.
Yeah, I guess.
And it's
when you boil it down, it's really just the kids come back to their childhood home because they're all in a rut. Father. Yeah, they're all in a little, everyone's just kind of in a little rut. And like, I don't know, they all like kind of didn't even come back for his father in the first place. They were all like, Chaz was coming back because his house wasn't safe, and he was still just going through that trauma.
We got to install some sprinklers. This place doesn't have sprinklers either. Well,
did you pack before you left, or how did you do? Like I love like this. It's that sort of comedy, that this like sprinkled throughout the whole movie. But yeah, like Chaz was going because of safety. Margot was just like, well, yeah, I'm actually depressed too, Mom. Yeah, like, and she's like, what?
I'm not a huge fan of my husband, who's 30 years older than me, and I don't know. I think I'm okay.
And then does Richie? He hears like a transmission, and he's like immediately coming home.
Richie is the one who actually cares about their father, and wants to make sure he's okay. Richie is actually, since we're doing all our favorites like usual, scene, shot, performance, character, and line, he's my favorite character in this movie. I loved me some Richie Tenenbaum. I thought that he was it's a complicated character, obviously, given the whole, I've never watched a movie or a show where they did the whole, like, brother falls in love with sister angle, and thought, man, they did that good. They did that good in this one, man. And here's the thing. They did a really good job of balancing the whole, like, they made it clear that Royal never treated her the same, and never always reinforced that she was adopted, always reinforced that she wasn't actually a part of the family, didn't invite her to go see the grandma's grave because it wasn't actually her grandma, which is fucked up. But it did open the door for Richie to be able to fall in love with his adoptive sister. And it make it more believable and me more okay with it than I've ever been in any sort of media. I think Royal says it perfectly whenever he's up on the roof giving Richie the advice, kind of. He's like, well, I guess it could work, but honestly still frowned upon, even though you are, it's like, it's still like he's just talking about it like, yeah, I guess this could work, but still frowned upon. And that's just like handled in the movie perfectly. Like, just every time they brought it up, it was just handled so well. But Richie, I don't know. I'm struggling to figure my favorite character, but no, Richie, I loved Richie because he's just a lover, man. He loved his father, even in spite of all the terrible shit that happened. And, there's also the fact that Royal took him everywhere and didn't invite the other siblings. So maybe there's a little bit more of a soft spot that Richie has for his father because he got to experience more things. And, but whenever Chaz goes up to his tent and is like, what the fuck, man? Like, what's your problem? What are you doing? He's like, I don't have a problem. I love you. I love your family. Yeah. And I want everything to be okay. And he's like, damn you, man. And he's like, I love you, buddy. Like he's just
saying that. He's like you're too perfect.
He loves so much that it ends up, hurting him in the short term. I loved that scene was gruesome as all hell, and I can give you a firm assurance. I wasn't expecting that, and I'd watched all these other movies. That's as dark as that guy gets.
Like, oh really? That's
in terms of visuals, story elements. There's always somebody in the movie, or everybody in every movie has some sort of tragedy that happened to them, and they handle it so casually, and it's so interesting that way, because one of the interesting things about Wes Anderson's style too, in terms of writing, is I think it tries to reinforce that everyone's got shit, and there's a way to handle it well and just keep pushing forward. And I think that's something that this movie spent time on, the inability to push forward through that shit with Richie, with Chaz, with Margot, even. Like, all the kids have this shit, this baggage with their dad or their siblings in some way, with their family, that they can't seem to get past. And when they finally do at the end of the movie, that's when you go, oh my God, this is so fucking good.
Yeah, that scene, because I feel like I've seen that mirror shot somewhere before. Like, I feel like, I don't know where, but I feel like I've seen, like, the flipping back and forth of, like, whenever, like, he was, cutting his hair, and then it kind of, like, flipped, like...
Flashed.
Yeah, I think, like, maybe just in, like, a movie edit, or, like, maybe it was, like, some... I don't know. But, like, whenever it was popping, I'm like, he was cutting his hair first, I'm, like, kind of... little like, okay, like I think I'm like kind of right on where this is going, and then he just says out loud, like, I'm going to kill myself tomorrow. And I'm like, okay, we are going.
Doesn't wait very long either. Yeah. He's like, I'm going to kill myself tomorrow, and then does it right then. And it's like,
and I'm like, oh my God. And then, like, but that, I was trying to find, like, I didn't want to pick it as like my favorite scene, because it's not really my favorite scene, but I just wanted, like, the shot, like, just how well the scene was done, though. Like, how well, like, good. You actually just, like, I don't know, we were right there with them, and then, like, boom, it just hits. Like, you're like, holy fuck, like, out of nowhere, you're laughing in earlier parts of the movie and just having, like, a good time, smiling.
My God, it was so fucking good, because, like, when he says, I'm gonna kill myself tomorrow, it then just flashes to all those memories, and then you're like, oh, he didn't wait. Yeah. Like, his life is flashing before his eyes. He is seeing what he's done, and it goes backwards, because the first flash is him with the full haircut, and then it just keeps going back and back and back and back in terms of timeline. And then his arms are bleeding like crazy, and you're like, oh fuck. Oh no.
Poor
like
kid. Who's
Dudley.
Dudley, yeah. I'm still Dudley. Like, the names. I'm still getting used to all the names still. Like, that's just a thing I'm terrible with in movies and TV in general. So, but
no, man. But I had to go Richie for the character, and in part that was my way. A little bit of paying homage to that scene, because I think the journey that Royal goes on specifically is probably the most fulfilling. But yeah. And I wanted to throw some love to the character I appreciated on a personal level more, and that's Richie, man. I just thought that, if I'm not mistaken, was he the oldest brother or the youngest brother?
I think so. I think he was the oldest, because
I thought it was Richie, Chaz, Margot. Is how I thought it went in terms of age, but I don't know. Maybe they never clarified that.
I guess, yeah. Looking at just, like, family tree, and it's just, like, stuff made on Pinterest, so I don't really know how accurate this.
Yeah, I don't think they ever confirmed it, but there was this element to him that I like related to a degree, and I don't know. So I projected onto him. Older sibling, because that's what I am.
Oh, he definitely felt like it, for sure.
Yeah, like he's the one who looked out for his parents the most and wanted all the family to come together and be like, hey, it's all right, guys, everything's gonna be fine, we all love each other, right? So, like, that was something that I really admired in him and related to a degree, and it made me go with Richie as my favorite character. I love that guy.
And at his peak, he's at, like, in whatever match he's in tennis, and it's the day after Margot and
Raleigh St. Clair.
Raleigh St. Clair. Wow. But after they get married, he's just, just skying him up in the stands. I'm like, what? I don't know. So like that's I guess you're right. It's more of like just the situation that's like that's the funny part is like the situation that they're in. But I do have Royal Tenenbaum as my character right now because I feel like that's kind of like the point of the movie.
That's the crux of the film.
Yeah, is like I think you're right in that it's like everyone has shit. Everyone has shit, no matter what. And I think, but I think like Royal is like everyone has shit. Also, Royal is a piece of shit himself. You know, like he's also just like not really a good person.
He's the root of all of their shit.
Yeah, and seeing him like come around at the end, like whenever he just straight up, here's a present, here's the divorce papers. I'm so happy. You know, I want this to happen now. Like I don't know. It was all.
Oh yeah, man. The
so
fulfilling of his arc, just so satisfying. And there's this element that you'll catch on to, because as soon as he started coming around, I went, "Oh, Royal's gonna die." And that's just like that's how Wes Anderson's movies go. Is that like it's so simple, it's so straight to the point. You know, they're just like. Royal Tenenbaum passed away at 68 of a heart attack, and that was that. You know, Chaz was the only one there to witness his death. And it's like everything's so matter of fact. It's like somehow he manages to tell a story that's so emotionally fulfilling while it almost feels like journalism, like really good journalism, where he's just reporting what he saw and what the family went through and stuff. And then it's just like, by the end of it, you're like, oh my fucking God, this is so goddamn good, man.
Is this an actual book? Was it like, or is
no?
So he just makes it seem like a book.
This is not the only time he does that either. The Grand Budapest Hotel is also modeled after a book that they open at the beginning, and they're reading and stuff. I
fuck with that so much.
The French Dispatch is a magazine. It's literally an issue of a magazine with like 4 different stories that are written in the magazine. So like it's like it's a really great, like the creativity that comes with the way he tells his stories is so fucking satisfying, dude. Like
it's just a little part of the movie, but like each chapter you get to read like the little first couple sentences, and then you're like, oh damn, if this is a book, he's holding really true to like this book here, like the I don't know, it's like I guess it was just the script, you know, or like literally, you know, but in just showing it like a book. I don't know.
Well, I think the way the first sentence was also like always leading up to the thing you were about to see. It's never the thing you're seeing. Like I think it was chapter 2 or 3. Whenever Chaz and his kids go back home, the excerpt in the book was like the bell rings and Pagoda heads to the door, and then the scene kicks off and he's opening the door and the kids are out there, and it's like cool, you know, like they literally pick it up from there. Man, I loved this movie, man. There's I always talk about how we're highly anticipating that top 100 movies. I'm a spoiler right now. All 8 of these are on there.
I'd say they will probably be for me as well. Yeah, this is my first one of all of them. And I don't know, we were talking off. I guess it might be a little spoiler. Maybe I keep it down.
Nah, it's all right. It's all right. It might change, you know. Since this was my first viewing of this film, I've watched all these other ones. Not all of them multiple times, but I've watched Grand Budapest Hotel multiple times and Life Aquatic multiple times, and let's see, Fantastic Mr. Fox and Isle of Dogs and The French Dispatch. Watched all of those multiple times. At the moment, I have the Royal Tenenbaums at 8 out of 8 as far as what we're covering. That might change as we go through and I see him evolve as a filmmaker and stuff, but because there is something so different about the way he started versus what he becomes, you know, like there's there are 2 movies that came before this in Bottle Rocket and Rushmore, and this is the first movie where he like leans into his style completely, and even then the way that style evolves is so like it's so much. Even from this one to the Life Aquatic, you see a little bit of an evolution already, and that just keeps going. So it's interesting to see him at the beginning of his career. I know it was his third feature film. Like, he's an established director and stuff at this point, but like, I don't know. It's so funny to see someone with such a long career continue to evolve from a place when they were already so fucking good at what they did.
Yeah, and this
so yeah, at the moment I have it 8 out of 8, but I'm going to reevaluate it as we go through, and we'll see.
That sounds bad, but I hear that as just a very good news, actually. Like, if it can only go up from here.
Like I said, these are all top 100 favorites of all time for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, so I'm super excited because I came out of this and I'm like, oh, I'm full on Wes Anderson now. You know, like I'm in on his style. This is so unique. Like, I need to just see everything that this dude has to offer because you're not getting it really anywhere else. I don't know. Like, I understand, like, I don't know. You asked me like 3 years ago, name your favorite director's style or your favorite director in general. Couldn't tell you anybody. I don't know. I'd be like, well, I like these movies. I guess whoever directed those, maybe if they're the same. Right. I can maybe piece together some styles, but not really. Like, and now that, you know, we just talked a lot more about movies, I'm getting into that stuff now. It's so much cooler, like, to see the technical side of movie making, what like goes into it, and all like the creative process that goes into it, and seeing, we're coming off, the comic book film. We see a movie like Catwoman, and I can see where a movie can just fall apart completely. Like it one area of a movie can just completely like ruin a movie. But this it's like a whole symphony where everything's just going right at the same time. Everyone's performing well, everyone's funny. And then when it needs to get emotional, I'm like actually crying too. Right. It's like just a roller coaster of a movie, and I don't know. It's unlike. That's the thing. It's categorized as a comedy. Like, I guess, comedy drama is just what it says on IMDb.
Yeah, and I would agree with that, which is kind of crazy. Yeah. Like, it is funny. There's a lot of things that like Gene Hackman says that is just so fucking hilarious. You know what I'm saying? And he is actually the reason this movie's funny. None of the other characters say funny things. They more just find themselves in situations that are a little comedic. But yeah, man, I don't know. I just I had to go with Gene Hackman as Royal Tenenbaum for my performance, just because he's not the reason this movie works. This movie would have worked. He just made it infinitely better. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I don't think anything. Like, I'm pretty sure. I'm kind of going back and forth on character of who to give it to, but I think performance-wise, it just has to be Gene Hackman here. Like, just the actual comedic value that he brought to the table, and then just at the end there, like, and then, I don't know, like him playing with his grandkids, like, I don't know, like at first, bringing them out on the dumpster, and then like you see that shot of Chaz joining them, you know, on the back of the, like, so I don't know, it's like, at first I hate his guts, and he says a lot of either homophobic or racial, charged things, and you're like, okay, yeah, we're supposed to hate this guy, like pretty easily hateable, but then you're like, I see he's coming around, like
Wes Anderson does that with so many of his protagonists. He makes them unlikable, shitty people, and then he sends them on a journey that makes them realize, oh God, I'm an unlikable, shitty person.
What's the line? What's the Glover is his last real
Danny Glover.
Danny Glover. What is his character name though in this?
Oh, it was fucking Mr. Sherman, Henry
Sherman. Okay, yeah. Whenever they're it's like after freaking Owen Wilson crashes his car into the house, and they're walking over to like grab the boys, and it's Henry and Royal, and then he's like, I forgot what Royal says to him, but he's like, hey, I'm actually trying to do good now. I don't know if this means anything to you, but then Henry's like, I don't think you're a piece of shit. I just think you're a little son of a bitch, or something like that. Or like, I just think you're a little bit of a son of a bitch. Yeah. And then he's like, Roy was just like, you know what? I appreciate you saying that. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I love, like, at the end, it's just everyone kind of made their peace with everyone, you know, and it's like this weird ass family, you know, like what an ensemble like that we just got going on here at the end, like that way. I don't know. I think I couldn't pick any other scene, any other than that wedding. It's just because that's just when everything comes together.
Everyone is there. Yeah.
Everyone's going crazy. And like, even at the very beginning when, you know, the bride and groom are separated and they're all getting ready, you know, you have the boys in there with Henry, and then, you know, you got Margot in there with mom, and you have the moment with like Henry and Chaz where it's like, you know, I know you lost.
I'm a widower.
And it's like, I know. They have like that kind of connection. Like it's very slight, very super small little connections that each character has, like in this
well,
moment.
and that one operated on a cool level too, because there's that part at the beginning of the movie whenever they're sitting down at the dinner table in their home where Chaz is insistently calling him Mr. Sherman.
That's
and their mom is like, call him Henry. And he's like, he's always been Mr. Sherman. He's your accountant. He has been for 10 years. So whenever he goes, you know, like when he hears that Henry lost his wife and he has to tell him more, there's something with Henry there where he goes like, I know. That's kind of like I've been open to who you are as a person. I've listened. I know your mom.
Mm-hmm. It's
time you accept me too. You know, like like we're more similar than you think, you know, and I think Chaz is finally accepting that, and I think that's I love that. And you know, it's exactly the person that Chaz would relate to the most, the business minded, always doing the calculations and stuff. Like that's
exactly. It's like it's the actual dad that Chaz wanted, kind of like it's perfect. Like even more like not perfect that he is a widower. Like I don't want that for him at all. But it's like it makes the connection even easier, and like it's like perfect situation. And I don't know if this is the line exactly, but after the Royal gives them the divorce papers, and he's like, all right, here you go. He's like getting back on the bus. He says something along something like, I don't understand, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, oh, wait, no, I actually get it now. I get it now. Henry, you're just everything that I am not. And I think it was like literally, it had me realize that like throughout the whole story, like that's kind of what Henry was there for. Like every time Royal would be gone and not there at all, and like he was scheming, and just doing his own thing, Henry would be there and he's like, how can I help? He's walking in instantly. How can I help? And he's, he has his tie and his glasses or whatever. And like, he's always like never worried about himself whatsoever, but always worried about everyone else. And I think when Royal says that, I'm like, oh wow, yeah, what a like just the way the story goes. Like Henry is just the anti to Royal, like completely. And that's why, what's the Ethylene? Yeah, Ethylene.
Yeah, Ethel.
Just, I think, like, actually falls in love with him. It's like the first time that she's actually like, oh,
considered. Yeah.
I'll think about this. Like what a proposal, and what like a way to fall in love, or whatever. Like what a love story that it was. But like, I don't know. By the end of the movie, I actually care about them. Like I'm actually attached to that. Like it started so boringly, and it's like, he was just talking for tax purposes or whatever. I think you should be single. And actually, I love you. Will you marry me?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. No, I love that, man. What's so fascinating is that, like, I love that Henry is like the next step for Ethel, even though they are getting married and stuff. There's something that's funny about it where there's that scene where her and Royal are like walking next to that pond in the woods and stuff. The chemistry these two had was fucking impeccable. They had they were really good in scenes together, Gene Hackman and Angelica Houston. But there's this interesting thing where they have the chemistry of a long divorced couple. Like this is a very specific type of chemistry where like,
I know exactly
old,
what you're talking.
They know each other in a way nobody else will, and they like Royal. He's trying to get back in her life, but Ethel knows it's never going to come back to that. You know, like she's like, I'll keep you around, but it's not that. It's never going to be that.
And she even like reminisced a little bit, you know, like he said something, and we don't even really know what it was, I don't think, but like he said something, she's like, just your little quips or like your little tendencies that you have, the little things you say when I think they were on that walk, like in the pond.
Yeah.
And Royal didn't even realize what he said, but it's just like, that's just a long-term couple thing that, you know, only they would understand. But yeah, you're totally right. It, like, the chemistry they had was exactly that of a long divorced just couple. And it's so crazy that like, I think I will actually go with Gene, like, or Royal as my character. Cause I really do think like that's the most satisfying character of the movie. I really do like Chaz and like his storyline, like where it all went and how he came around, how his kids, you know, actually had a good time with Royal, stuff like that. But I think like the more satisfying story of the movie is Royal, you know, at the end. And I think making his death sort of fast and just like that, is way better because like he kind of, I don't know, he faked us all, you know, like, yeah, he's dying of stomach cancer. He has 6 weeks left. You know, he is dying. You know, I am dying.
Was that he was actually going to live another 6 weeks.
Yeah.
Apparently it was a little longer. Like I thought he was like faking sick and then like 6 weeks later he would drop dead.
Yeah.
But I guess it was a little longer, but still it had the same effect, you know, like he lived like he was going to die. And there's that moment where he's talking to Richie where he's like, you know, after all this closeness with death, you know, I think I'm finally ready to go on. And Richie's like, you were never actually dying, Dad. And
I'm going to live.
But I'm going to live, you know? And it's like, I think like, that's what's funny is that like, while he said that, it's not like he is trying to be a little bit of a smartass, but he means it, you know? He's like,
he's kind of reborn
this faking it even so made me realize what I need to do and what is important, you know? And I thought that was super compelling. My favorite line of the movie actually comes when he's being thrown out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, just so you all know, these last 6 days have been the best of my life. And then the narrator kicks in and he goes, immediately after saying this, he realized it was true. Like, he was bullshitting. Yeah. He was just talking the fast talk that he always does. Mm-hmm. You know, these last 6 days have been the best of my life. And then he's like, oh shit, they might have been. Like, they actually were the best days.
Yeah, you had that look on his face. Like, the camera just kind of stays on him for a little bit. And he kind of like,
damn. Yeah, they are the best days of my life. I don't know. I loved that. And it's because that's like the turning point, you know? It's when he realizes he needs to do better. And I really, really appreciated that. It was so good. I love that after that, too, Pagoda walks him downstairs and stabs him in the stomach, dude.
That's the last time you'll ever put a knife in me. like, how many times has this dude stabbed him? You know, like... I guess they've just, I don't know. It seems.
I met him, I can't remember where he met him, but I met him. He saved my life. I'd been stabbed in the stomach and he took me to the hospital.
Like a mob boss? Was Royal? Like, I want to know what Royal did in between this time, you know? Like, he went on, I don't know, he kind of like a mob boss-esque run there for a little bit, it seemed. You know, he was in prison. I feel like maybe they met in prison. It kind of seemed that, like, there was a price on my head. I don't think he was actually, like, out. You know, like, how does he get that big of a bounty on his head outside? I feel like it was just in prison, and it was like, yeah, we want you dead. And then Pagoda was the guy that, you know, was going to go shiv him and kill him. But then they saved him in prison. Like, I don't know. Maybe it was his cellmate. I don't know. I'm trying to think, you know, all this in my head. And I'm like, man, I want to know what the fuck Royal was up to, you know, during this time. Like, where he gets all this medical equipment that the guy owed the favor for, you know, like, everything was seeming a little, like, just mob bossy. I did a favor for this guy. He owed me a bunch of medical equipment. Like, I feel like there are a couple other examples, but, like, why? Okay.
Going to the dog fighting and shit. Like, that's a...
Yeah. What was I missing something? Whenever he was Chaz's two kids, Uzi and what's the other one?
Ari.
Yeah, Uzi and Ari. They're like in the playground and like working out or whatever. Mm-hmm. And he's like, hey, like come over here. But he has like the phone. He's like holding the phone like on the phone booth, like outside. Like, I don't know, like, was I missing something, or like, was he like trying to record that conversation, or like?
I think he was about to make a call and then saw the grandkids and then just like didn't hang the phone up was all. Like, I don't think he ended up dialing a number. I think it was just a little, like, he got distracted. He started doing another thing. I don't think it was anything.
Like, there were some times, like, whenever it was like Owen Wilson and Gwyneth, Margot and Eli, trying to get characters in here, were like up on the roof talking. He like had a big camera lens or whatever and was like taking pictures of him or whatever, like to write or like spying on him or something like that. And I didn't know, like,
that was the PI, whoever the PI was, the one that was investigating him, investigating Margot to relay back to Raleigh and Richie who she was cheating with.
Oh, okay. But I didn't know the phone. I just didn't know if I was missing something. I felt
no,
like
I don't think you were. I think it was just I
okay.
think it was just a small detail that like he just picked up a phone, saw them, and was like, "Hey, come over here. You know who I am." I love that scene too. My favorite scene actually is the day of illegalities with Royal and his grandsons. Whenever he takes them to do all the shit, they just run across the street. You know, it's the exact thing that those kids probably shouldn't be doing, but absolutely need after their dad's been the way he has been for the last several months.
Royal has a line that's kind of like, he's talking to Ethel, I think. Like, he's like, you know what those boys need a little bit of recklessness in their life, you know, to show them the wrong.
I think that's terrible advice.
And he's like, no, you don't. You know, like, it is kind of terrible advice if you're always acting under that notion. But like right now, it is kind of what they need. And it was nice just to see, you know, like them throw water balloons at a taxi or whatever, run away, like them just just like doing random things.
I think it kind of gave Royal a chance to do. You know, he always did this stuff with Richie, but he did it for himself and just kind of brought Richie along. He was actually doing this for those kids. Yeah. So it was like it was a chance for him to kind of rectify his actions through the next generation of Tenenbaums, which I really, really loved. And I thought that, like, the way Ari and Uzi are like, we love Pappy, you know? And then he's like, Pappy? What the fuck? Like, dude, I don't know. I loved this movie, and I loved the way they the dynamics between like every single character. There's just such a fascinating every single character connection has its little twinge. Everything's got its own thing, and I really, really appreciated that, man. It was just so damn good.
Yeah, you can really just pick any two characters, and there is something between them that was like really satisfying. Like even Chaz there, and Royal, like I feel like they're at the steps or something at the bottom of the stairs, and then Roy was leaving, and he's like, don't do what I did, you know, to you. Like, I don't want your boys to end up like me or something like that. And he just leaves, and I'm like, man, like, this movie can really, out of nowhere, like, just get you to, like, just really feel for the characters. And I feel like that's where his style is so, like, useful. It is so random, and you are just seeing random situations that these characters are in, but you understand who they are more through these funny and weird situations, like weird interactions. You just understand the characters more, so that when the emotional moment comes, whenever it happens to be, you're like, oh fuck, yeah, that actually, like, that has some weight to it. And like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way right now, but I am. And I don't know, it just keeps happening over and over. And then in the end, it's like full circle, you know, and then it's just, I don't know. I don't know what to call it, but I think like it's just this way of storytelling is
it's compelling.
Yeah, it works. It just works very well. And for like, I don't know, a movie that I just went full blind. I think it did work that I just went full blind into it. And like now that I know what happens and everything, and I won't have to figure out or like try to think of where the movie's going to go. And now I can just look back at all the character interactions and I don't know, just kind of see the movie for what it really is. Like a second watch of this is going to be really interesting compared to the first.
And I think Wes Anderson's movies are just like really, really fulfilling on almost every level. You know, I come away feeling roughly the same about all of them in terms of like where I'm left emotionally, where I'm like either some devastating shit has happened or, you know, the devastating shit has happened. A character has realized what they need to realize, and then the story's fulfilled and everything's okay. And that always gets me. You know what I'm saying? Like it's there's a lot of commonalities in sort of the storytelling method that he uses, but he always finds a way to make it fresh, and he always finds a way to make it feel new. And I think you'll find that with like Steve Zissou in the next movie. It's very similar to Royal Tenenbaums in terms of like shitty guy, very not cool, finds himself and ends up being okay at the end. And I really like that, you know, like it's a fun little dichotomy to have for a character, and I think that he knocks it out of the park every time. But yeah, man, I adored this movie. I think the only favorite I haven't given out is my favorite shot, and it's actually after Richie leaves the hospital, which I don't think they just let you check yourself out
how that happens
of a suicide attempt. So when he said checked myself out, I think he just left.
I think it might have been a play on how mental health just isn't.
Yeah, right.
Like, it's not like, oh, you're fine, you're alive now, yeah, you survived. Like, you're not going to do it again, we'll let you go. I think, like, it's at the time, like, because when did this movie come out? Like
2001.
Yeah, I feel like maybe it was just kind of like I don't know, maybe more of like a play on the real world aspect of that. But I don't know.
Yeah, no, but after that, when he goes home and he climbs through the window and goes to Margot's room, but she's not there, and then he like finds her in his tent in his room. Oh my god, man, my heart! I was like, I melted, bro. And then the way they like go in there and they just sit. It's this shot. Like, I like the one where they're laying down and she's got her head on his chest and stuff, but it's the one where she's sitting on the bed and he's sitting on the ground, like facing her, but they're off kilter, so they're not facing each other directly, and one of them's looking straight forward, the other's looking straight forward. Oh, dude, I loved it. It looked so fucking good.
Yeah, that scene was. I almost gave Gwyneth Paltrow the performance just because of like how muted she had to play like the whole time, and then like in this moment, like whenever she was like, "Why'd you do it?" You know, like, "Are you gonna do it again?" And he's like, "I doubt." But then like you just see her like she's like crying in between each question. You know, like she asked, and it's just like I was like, "Oh my god!" Like, it's crazy how the movie can just flip on a dime like that.
Yeah.
You know, like just and I don't know. I'm glad that I feel like no, I will stick with the character as Royal, but like Margot was my almost character because Margot, like the life she went on, man. She's been a chain smoker since age 12, 13?
12.
I don't know. Yeah, that's nuts. Married, I don't know how many times, but she has some experience all around the world. She's been everywhere.
It's a pansexual queen right there.
I mean, damn.
Anything and everything, she's down for it.
I mean, you know, let's see. Raleigh
St. Clair.
Raleigh, yeah. Like whenever they all find out and he's just laying on the couch, you know, like that was almost one of my shots, was whenever it was him laying on the couch, and then you had his son in the background, and then you also had Richie kind of in the, I think was that right before? Was that the bathroom?
No, that was not the bathroom. He walked out of that bathroom and left to go do that.
Okay, that's right. Okay.
Oh wait, no. That was the bathroom.
In that moment? No, yeah,
because Dudley and Raleigh are the ones who are with him.
That's right, yeah, and they take him to the hospital. So it is like right then and there. Yeah, it is right before.
Yeah, pretty much.
Because I guess you kind of get introduced to the idea, because I think, man, I just don't know. I feel like I'm pronouncing Raleigh. I don't know why. That's such a hard word for me to say. But like I think he even says like, I don't want to live anymore. You know, like because he's like laying there and his son, do you want to run any experiments on me or anything? And I forgot, like, he's like, no.
There's a part at the beginning. There was a part at the beginning that killed me because I didn't realize the movie would take it there, because I don't know. It's just I like I said, I've watched all these movies. They're never as dark as the Ritchie suicide attempt. Like that was I was like, oh, like there's something about that made me glad this is the last one I watched. Because I'm like, I genuinely didn't expect him to take it there, and then he did, and I was like, oh my god, okay. But there's a part at the beginning whenever Margot, I guess it's not at the beginning, it would have been more towards the middle of the movie, but Margot and Raleigh are sitting outside of the old house, and they're sitting there, and he's like, are you ever coming home? And she goes, I don't know. He goes, I wish I were dead. Or like, like, he just says, I wish I were dead. And like, I laughed out loud because I didn't realize they would actually do a suicide attempt later in the movie.
Yeah. I think maybe that is why it works so well for Richie's character, is that he was the one who was super rich, was super on the, a well-renowned tennis player. Everyone was calling him out on the streets like, hey, look at you. I think like it is the most unexpected person out of all of them. If you expect anyone to actually go that far, it's probably Margot. Margot, she's already in a bathtub just smoking by herself. Or Chaz, like, lost his wife and doesn't, feels just as scared every single day. But then it hits you out of nowhere when it's the guy who had it all, but lost his love, and it is weird for me, like, to say it, because like just the brother and sister love, but I don't know.
I mean,
they handled it perfectly. Like
they did. It was like, I've literally never watched a thing with this idea. I think it happens in Dexter. I think it happens in the Umbrella Academy, and every single time it happens, I go, this is fucking disgusting, because every time they were treated as brother and sister, their parents brought them up and were like, this is your sibling. You are brother and sister.
Yeah.
This one, they definitely handled it in a way that made it more acceptable because of the way Royal treated Margot, which is fascinating. It's just such a complicated storyline to make work, and I can't believe they did.
I think we're just gonna have to be secretly in love with each other, and that's how it's gonna have to be. Boop. Close the tent. And I don't know. I just it's such a, looking back on the movie. Like, if you're not in the movie in the time, it sounds crazy. Like, if you're just to explain this movie to someone who's never seen it, I feel like I just couldn't. I feel like you just have to watch the movie. Like,
well, there's that part whenever Eli comes streaming down the street in war paint and on drugs, and he crashes the car. He flies through the window. He's got one shoe off. Where's my shoe? I was watching it with Emily, and she goes, "This movie is fucking insane." Just because, how do you what even is that? What are we doing here?
It's a wedding. Yeah, it's a wedding that's about to happen, and everyone's having cute moments with each other. And then out of nowhere, war paint Owen Wilson speeding down the street just kills a dog.
Yeah.
And then you have a chase scene with him and Ben Stiller, And then another one of my almost favorite shots was whenever they're just landed in that other person's backyard, and they're just laying there in that Zen garden. I don't know, just a really nice garden back there.
Yeah, it was
really peaceful.
An embassy of some sort, that they.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because when they knock on the door, I think there's a little plaque there that says it's some country's embassy, and they knock on the door and they're like, "Hey, can we go to your backyard? We've got a couple of boys back there."
I didn't see the sign, huh? I was just focusing too much on Henry and Royal.
Oh yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. But
that's why I can't wait to watch this movie again. It's just to notice all these little details.
Oh, there's tons of just little shit, and that's how every Wes Anderson movie is, man. There's so much going on in a frame, but he does so good at making you focus on what he wants you to focus on, so that you don't notice all that shit until you go back and watch it. And it's it's so satisfying, and I think that's part of the purpose of his style it is obviously he is so good at making you look at exactly what he wants you to look at. Not your eyes aren't wandering. Yeah. You know what you're supposed to be looking at when you're watching a Wes Anderson movie, and he does impeccable at it.
It's it's so simple of a shot, like I don't know, it's like it's so simple that it's complex. Like
Mhm.
it does like it's you're right. Like I was glued to the screen. Like and I was looking, I don't know. Like I didn't notice anyone but the characters really early, you know, like what was going on. And like
They're always enveloped in some sort of color that looks like, that's what makes the scenes in Richie's tent so beautiful to look at too, is because like the yellow glow and the different lights he's got in there and the little trinkets and stuff he has all around them. It just creates an environment that makes it easier for the characters to pop out at you. And there's a, you know, whenever at the beginning, whenever Gene Hackman's sitting at the end of that table and it's like just a giant deep orange wall and a long wood table and he's just the center, like that's such a simple shot, but it's so effectively done. And I adore that style that Wes Anderson and Robert Yeoman have come together to create. It's impeccable. It's impeccably well done.
so
And,
how much of like that is on the cinematographer? Like it versus what? You know, like how when the movie's being made and they're setting up, you know, like I
think
guess
it varies production to production. You know, I can't speak to specifically the dynamic that Robert Yeoman and Wes Anderson have, simply because I don't know. But I will say the director has a very heavy hand in setting up the shot because it's their vision. It's their vision of the movie. He decides what he wants it to look like, tries to articulate that, and the cinematographer's job, in my mind, is to make that happen.
Gotcha. Okay, I see. So just as the director would go to the actor and be like, "This is how you're supposed to feel,"
how I want this to look.
He goes to the cinematographer. Yes. Okay, I gotcha now.
That's kind of how I've understood direction versus cinematography to work, because you know there's the way a movie looks can't 100% fall on the shoulders of a cinematographer. It's extremely important. The director has to okay that, and it has to fit within the vision the director had for the movie, or else they wouldn't have it in the movie. You know, that's why poorly directed movies are really lackluster and don't feel continuous and just kind of all over the place.
Yeah. I feel like
so that's the thing,
quite
is that like
literal too. Like it's the camera. It is the literal vision of the movie, you know, at this point. Like you're like, and I don't know. I'm trying to think of like, is there a director that is also like because I feel like I just see a lot of pictures of directors like behind the camera a lot, but I wonder if that's just like getting a shot set up, you know, like is there
and that's the part that's part of it, is, you know, like I think that a cinematographer, like, and that's it's hard for me to say because I don't know as much as I should in this regard, but the way that I've always interpreted it is that it's the director's job to set up to portray what they want to a cinematographer. The cinematographer's job is to set it up, and then the director can help to look at it, decide what needs changed, what needs to be fixed and stuff. So the only way to know what you're looking at is through a camera lens, you know, or else you won't know what the movie's going to look like. You can't just stand there and go, yeah, this seems right. You know, you have to get behind the camera and you have to decide if that's what it's supposed to look like. What I do love about like a director and cinematography pairing, Robert Yeoman is the cinematographer on every Wes Anderson movie.
Oh, that's cool. I do.
So
like
they are a team who works together, and
that's a cooler
pair. They make it happen.
Yeah.
And that goes for a lot of directors and their cinematographers. They're very, like, I think James Gunn had the same cinematographer on all of his superhero movies, all of Guardians and the Suicide Squad and Peacemaker. I think all those had the same cinematographer. You know, like that's sometimes it's the same with actors. You know, you find the group you like working with, you understand each other, you know what the other wants, you know how to make that happen. And eventually y'all just get to a place where you work so cohesively together that you make those things happen, which is why I think Wes Anderson's style evolves to a point that's just so picturesque, perfect, like in terms of executed exactly how I think he always wanted to make films in Grand Budapest, in The French Dispatch, and what I'm assuming Asteroid City, given that trailer. It looks like those three are going to be visually trilligent, you know. Like he's found the formula, and he knows exactly the way he wants his movies to look, and it's really incredible.
Actually think about how the movie is made as well. Like I guess I've always just taken movies really at the face value for what the movie is, but I don't realize that these are real humans just making this thing. You know, like they are getting together. These are not their forever jobs. These aren't these actual these are just characters that they're coming on, and this is just their job, you know, which is so weird to me. It's like,
acting is so bizarre, man.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like there's a disconnect, but like now, like I guess maybe I'm just more interested in how movies are made, and now I'm like looking at directors and, you know, all the behind the scenes stuff, so it's just coming up more in conversation. But I don't know, it is getting way more interesting to me of how a movie's actually made and like what they have to go through to actually get certain shots or setting up, you know, this performance. Like, hey, Richie, you are slicing your wrists in this, you know, like he has to like actually like, I don't know, like be
act
there and yeah, and like say like what you, I don't know, like it's crazy that like just to think of the actual steps that they had to go through to make the movie. And then
it is always so crazy. That's like whenever someone is I'm always slow to say someone is a bad actor, because that shit's hard, you know, like, and you can't, like, there are plenty of people who are just bad actors, but if you're in a movie that's getting released in theaters, you're typically at least all right. You know, you're never like, oh my God, this is laughably bad, you know? And I guess that does happen, but it's always like, I don't know. It's always like, how does that happen? How do you let that happen as someone behind the camera, as someone, and that's when you start to go, oh, well, if there's a really bad actor on screen, it's probably the director's fault. You know, it's not, it can't all be on the shoulders of that actor, because that director shouldn't have let that happen. You know, like that's their job, quite literally. So like it's always so fascinating to see something like that happen, because like, shit, there's a moment in this one where like I love me some Ben Stiller. I think he's a very talented man, but I think that he's playing such a specific character that like it almost makes his performance seem less than for most of the movie. But then there's that moment at the end whenever Royal gives him the dog and he like breaks and he goes, "I've had a real rough year." I melted, bro. Like I immediately broke completely, and I was like, "Dude, I like that's the power of that." You know, like whenever a director knows what they want their character to be like, and it can convince you of one thing where you're like, maybe this isn't all that, and then makes a choice, and you're like, "Oh my God, never mind. They knew exactly what they were doing, huh?" Like that's the shit right there. I love when that shit works out like that, and I think that Ben Stiller was a really good example of that in this, and probably the best example of that in this, if I'm being honest. But
someone you're really more caring about him for his kids, and like for him to come around and finally like, you know. But then you have Richie, where you're Richie and Margot, where I don't know. I feel like you just care more about them in the moment, like the whole time, like you're already like with them. But yeah, I think that's you said it perfectly. Like it highlights a character that we really, I don't know, can't relate to a whole lot whatsoever in Chaz, but then that moment at the end, like, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm tearing up so hard, like, and it's, you know, he made the Dalmatian mice, and then he gets a Dalmatian dog, you know, you have all these little things that come together at the end. It's like things that meant nothing through the movie, you know, at the beginning. You have the Dalmatian mice, I didn't think that, just to show that they're smart and geniuses, whatever. But then it's like, and then you have Royal coming in and being like, "Oh, put them in a cage. These things are like disgusting. Like, oh, you should find a cage for them." You know, so he trashes on them. But then they have this moment where they both come together, and it's like, oh my God, like I didn't think all these little things meant anything, but now it's like it adds to this one moment at the end of the movie that actually matters now, and it's just executed so well. And like I don't think that like it's very purposeful, you know, like all these little mini arcs that go on throughout the movie. It's just this constant like satisfaction that you keep getting is like slowly the characters develop more and more and more, and you're like, yes, you're getting close, like you're getting it now. You're going to where I want you to go.
Mm.
And I don't know, maybe like it doesn't have to be complex. Like there doesn't have to be some greater story going on. It's literally just these are what these characters are going through, and this is like, I don't know, just
God, and that's the thing that I always love about these movies is that there's always something that is like deeply traumatic that has happened to a character. Chaz's wife died in a plane crash, and his kids and dogs stayed alive. Of course, he's the way he is. Richie is in love with his adoptive sister, and she's married another man. That's not deeply traumatic, but it sucks. You know, it's really sad.
for him.
Margot was adopted at the age of 2 and was never treated as being a part of the family. That is traumatic. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's not good. Like, all these characters have something that makes them, that is a launching point for the way they are at this point in the movie. And it's like, the way that operates is so compelling, you know, and I think the same can be said for all of his movies. So I'm just so excited to get deeper and deeper into this director's spotlight, because we have 7 more movies. We got The Life Aquatic, we got The Darjeeling Limited, Fantastic Mr. Fox, Moonrise Kingdom, The Grand Budapest Hotel, Isle of Dogs, and The French Dispatch. And
a good run it shall be. I have no idea, but if this is 8 out of 8, I'm ready. I'm strapped in.
At the moment, it might be 7. But even so, like, it'll just take another viewing of some of these to really know. God damn, yeah, it's a ridiculous run.
I wanted to get your thoughts on Ethylene.
Oh, I loved Ethel.
Like, they meant, you know, obviously Royal is like the bad parent here, and Ethel was the one who was there for them, actually raised them, whatever. But like, she cared about their education so much, and like, you know, like made them the way they are, like kept them in, like, I don't know. I wonder if there was like something more there of like,
I think there's a degree there where she overcorrected. I think, you know, I think there's an element to her that's, after you get out of a relationship with a guy like Royal Tenenbaum, you try to do everything you can to be the exact opposite of him. So he was irresponsible, he was irrational, he treated his kids like shit, he didn't care what they did. She is going to be overbearing. She is going to be overly responsible. She's going to make sure their kids don't do anything that could get them in trouble, because that's what happened to Royal. He goes to jail and stuff. Like, that's I think that's the thesis for Ethel, and I think that all of them recognize that in her. You know, I don't think any of them resent her for that or anything. In fact, I think they appreciate it a lot more than they appreciate Royal. You know.
Oh yeah, like it was never really touched on. I think that's why, is because they might see it as like, wow, you kept me, you know, in the house all along. I had to learn Italian, Spanish, all these languages, you know, or whatever, like, and do all these things, and you made us, you know, spectacles, you know, basically, but none of them ever have any, like, anything negative towards Ethel, like, whatsoever. And like, she really is just like the mom in this, like, whenever she figures out that Margot smokes, it's like, well, I think you should quit. You know, like, she just says the mom thing during the time, you know, and that's it. And then they move on.
I also just love 𝗍𝐿ica Houston. She's a fantastic actor, and like, she's in a few more of these movies, and in every single one of them, she's impeccable. You know, I love me some 𝗍𝐿ica Houston, and this was one of my favorite roles of hers. I loved her as Ethel Tenenbaum. I thought she did a fantastic job, and I don't know, there was just a lot to like. Character. There was a lot to like in this movie.
Yeah, I guess Pagoda.
Pagoda.
Was he always in pink pants? Did he have pink pants? Like, was that? I don't know. There was someone that had pink pants on, and they kind of just in the back. I don't know. I felt like like every character had their own outfit. Like, Chaz wore that Adidas jumpsuit every day.
Well, and then he wore a black Adidas
funeral.
jumpsuit to the funeral.
And then the kid, like the BBs, the shots, at the end, like, oh,
that
dude.
got me though.
Yeah.
Like the fact that they were firing off BBs.
Yes.
Like the thing that his dad shot into his hand, and like, I don't know. It's just a weird little homage that ends up getting me that shouldn't get me, I don't think. But like, I'm just like, God, man, damn.
And I don't know. Every character is a true character in this movie because Richie wears the same outfit. Like everyone wears like the same outfit every day.
Roughly, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
They're like cartoon characters.
Yeah, very, very animated. It feels, and like the way they even talk to each other is just like, this is kind of like a book, he's making it seem like a book. And that's like every chapter like reminded me like, oh yeah, this is, I don't know. He's telling it just like I'm just experiencing a book visually right now. And I guess that's kind of what movies are anyways. And, but I don't know, this really made me realize that during the watch.
And I think I think you could say that more for this one than you can for a lot of movies, because there's an element to this that almost feels like storybook-like. It almost feels fantastical, even though it is really grounded and it is very just, like I said earlier, mundane. It is just everyday life for these people. It just is what their life is. But the way they go about explaining it and the way they go about telling the story, it becomes some grander spectacle, which is what I love about Wes Anderson, is that he just makes the mundane feel huge. He makes it feel grandiose, and he did a fantastic job with the Royal Tenenbaums, man. I loved this movie, and I cannot wait to keep going with this project. I'm so happy that we're doing this.
Didn't know. Scroll down on IMDb a little bit. Alec Baldwin is the narrator.
Yeah, it was the narrator.
Didn't catch that. I guess I probably recognized the voice, but I don't know. It didn't,
Emily looked at me while we were watching. She goes, "Who's the narrator?" And I went, "That's Alec Baldwin." I recognize that voice. He's got a very distinct one on him.
Because so much else was going on, I couldn't even.
And that's like so random. There's actually there's a hilarious SNL skit that's SNL Wes Anderson horror trailer that is so fucking funny because Alec Baldwin narrates that. And then all of Ed Norton was the host of SNL that week, who eventually goes on to become a very close collaborator with Wes Anderson in a bunch of his movies. And he's playing Owen Wilson. So he keeps going, "Wow, there's people outside. They want to kill us. They've got axes." And they're all like, and this is the reason, a big trend lately is the AI Wes Anderson stuff. Mm-hmm. And all of it feels so hollow, it's all just shots. It's all just random shit. And that's dumb. You just can't replicate the way someone's going to make you feel. At least something like this, a spoof parody, was made by a human who had intentions and wanted to do something with it. It's just, I don't know. I appreciate stuff like that a lot more. But the skit is just absolutely hilarious. I can't recommend it enough for anyone who's not seen it. It's about 2.5 minutes, and it's fucking hilarious.
Wow. Yeah, love seeing Owen Wilson, just, I don't know. It's like in Ben Stiller, I don't know, these actors that I would normally see in movies, and I'm like, yeah, that's Owen Wilson, or yeah, that's Ben Stiller.
Your mind is about to be fucking opened in terms of Owen Wilson, man. Mm-hmm. I thought Loki was the breakout. Oh man, this guy can act. Oh, this guy can fucking act, man. And it's Wes Anderson who gets the most out of him. The character he plays in Life Aquatic, and specifically the character he plays in the Darjeeling Limited might be the most specific character work he's ever done. It's just it's so damn good. I really, really enjoy him and Wes Anderson stuff, man. It's all of a sudden I look at Owen Wilson completely differently than I did before. I knew him from Wedding Crashers and The Internship and these comedies with Vince Vaughn and stuff. Yeah. And now I'm like, Owen Wilson is a dramatic actor, you know, and not to say that comedic actors aren't good at what they do. Comedic actors are fantastic at what they do. It's just always so fascinating to see them provide their range. And whenever they do, it's what makes you realize that's what makes them so good at comedy. You know, there's a dude who, one of the people who I think is a fantastic actor who in a lot of his movies is absolutely fucking hilarious just because they're so good at playing it that way, is Adam Driver. Fantastic actor. You know him as a dramatic actor. Whenever he's playing a funny role, he's fucking hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, and that's Owen Wilson, you know, like I don't know that he has quite the chops that Adam Driver does, but when he does dig into the bag, he does a really good job. And I think it's what makes him so believable as a comedic actor. Cause that's, you know, I think a lot of people sleep on how difficult comedic acting is, you know, like you're really stranded out there. You're trying to make people laugh. And when you're on set, you don't know if it's going to make people laugh, you know, like that's just like
to live react, you know, you can't feed off an audience. You're just like in open air, you know, the camera and people just holding sound, you know, it's just like on a set, you know, you got nothing, you know, I guess they probably have like some laughs in the background, you know, like they have some takes. So I bet it's probably like, it's fun to make a comedy movie, you know, and I bet like that's how you have to make it. You have to make it like fun, and you can't just make it like a job site, you know, like. But yeah, you're right. Like comedic acting is, you have to act as well as like make people laugh. You know, you're doing two jobs at once, and it's hard to do both. You know, hard to do one in the first. You know,
and part of that is like you have to know you're funny. You know, like you have to have this security in yourself, because that's what I think that's part of what makes Gene Hackman's performance in this so damn good. Is that like, he knows he's funny, and that's how he is delivering his lines. It's like, he is like, what I'm saying is a joke, and you know it, I know it, but I'm also a big enough dick to where you'll think I'm serious about it too. And I am, you know, and that's what's fascinating. Is like, it's just such a fascinating dichotomy that Gene Hackman's Royal Tenenbaum proposes, where he's like, he's so playful and stupid and funny, but he's also just a dick and an asshole and sad, you know, like he's not a happy guy. There's this shot where whenever Chaz is like shutting the door on him, he's like, lights out at 11:30. And, there's like one light streaming in through the door, and it's just on his face, you know, and then the door shuts and it goes completely dark. Like, it's like, I thought it was just a really good visual cue as to where Gene Hackman's Royal Tenenbaum was at this point in the story, you know, like that he's shut out, nobody cares, he's done this to himself, and that's how they're going about it, man. It's the more I talk about it, the more I loved this movie. You know, I already loved it, but the more I talk about it, it just gets better and better.
I found the line between Royal and Henry. He says, "I've always been considered an asshole for about as long as I can remember. That's just my style. But I really feel blue if I didn't think you were going to forgive me." And he says, "I don't think you're an asshole, Royal. I just think you're kind of a son of a bitch." And he says, "Well, I really appreciate that." And then they go on to get their sons, you know, out of the backyard. You know, like a really, like, we have a couple boys in your backyard, you know, like at an embassy, that makes it even better. You know, like you see a white and a black man come up to some embassy saying, we have two sons in your backyard. Like what a moment.
What was also hilarious is that like there was this real vagueness about the wall that Chaz throws Eli over.
Threw him off a building. Like,
I thought he might have thrown him off a building and killed him. And then like he jumps right over, and I'm like, okay, cool. But I thought like he was mad enough that I don't think he knew that was there. You know, I think he just tossed him.
He was seeing red. Yeah, he was seeing red. He was just going. He was full blood, out for blood. But man, yeah, that because he lands and then like Owen Wilson says something. I think like either as he's falling or like either as but man, yeah, that I don't know. It's just a weird movie that just worked on every level, though. Like And I don't know. I'm so glad that this was like my introduction to Wes.
I am too.
And I'm glad to keep it going. Because I'm not stopping with him. Yeah, I'm getting the full repertoire of Wes
Oh,
now.
fuck yeah! But I think that leaves us with a rating, and we are going to do this a bit differently than we typically do ratings. We're not going to do any genre rating, or obviously no adaptation rating. We're just doing enjoyment and critical, and there is going to be a little bit of a weight on the critical side of things. It's going to be 2/3, 1/3. So 2/3 of the rating will be critical, 1/3 of the rating will be enjoyment. But we will rate them separately, and then we'll get that average, and we'll have it all together for us. So, man, where are you sitting with this one enjoyment wise after the first viewing?
It's very interesting. Usually we have a lot of other movies to compare to, like with the comic book movies.
Brand fucking new for you, huh?
Brand new, but I feel like we've been doing it long enough. We have a pretty good idea. I think floor would be like 7.5, 7.75 would be like a floor. But I feel like I'm in the 8s for enjoyment, like because I'm laughing, I'm crying, but I don't know. I feel like maybe like 8, somewhere around it.
I was a little north of that. I was 8.5 is kind of where I was sitting. 8.5, 8.75 for enjoyment.
Yeah,
because it's just and like I said, this is 8 out of 8 for me at the moment. So if that gives you any insight as to where I am with all of his movies, I'm like, all these movies to me, there are a lot of them that will be 10s. Like that's where I'm at. And this one isn't quite there, but it's not super far off. Like my ceiling was a 9, my floor was an 8.25. I'm like, if you want to work within that range, I'm down to go with you.
Yeah, 9 would seem too high.
Okay,
I'd say that's where it's getting a little too high. But I'd say like actually 8.5. Like now that I'm reflecting on it, because like I am like, it did take me by surprise, like how affected I was by this movie. Like, and I not just like like I was laughing, I was having like an actual enjoyable time during the movie, but then like the actual like emotional side of it at the end added a whole lot to the movie that I didn't expect. So I think like it does deserve that bump. I think I was a little low at the beginning there.
Cool.
I think like
I'm glad to have talked you up a little bit. Yeah, 8.5 is, I'm perfectly cool with that. That's where my gut was. So
I like. Okay. Now,
but that takes us to the critical rating. I think it was really well written, really well shot. I think that the music choices were brilliant. The beginning montage of their childhood being set to Hey Jude, I think is kind of brilliant. Just because like there's also that story behind Hey Jude where it's actually written to a kid whose parents were divorced to let them know that you'll always be loved. And like, that's kind of the thesis for the movie, but to kick it off with that with Hey Jude is like, I thought that was really a really good choice. Like when a beginning of a movie feels like the end of a movie, it's bizarre. And that's how it felt. Like whenever he lets Mordecai fly away and he's like, the music picks up and it's like, nah, 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 and it's like,
right,
okay, yeah, hell yeah. And then it's like, now the movie begins and you're like, oh, okay.
And how he introduces every character at the beginning, like, and like it's kind of like credits, like at the beginning of the movie, but
Paltrow
but instead,
I
don't know, it's just giving like, usually it's just like, I don't know, you'll be in a drone shot, you'll just be seeing like landscape or something, and then it's just showing everyone's name or something. Yeah, it's just random names that mean nothing to me right now. If I know them, cool. If I don't know who this person is, and I don't know, like, I don't know, but giving them like, here's this person, here's what their character looks like, and then like a little background of them too. Like give you just, here's a little bit about this character. You'll learn a lot more about them, obviously, in the movie, but here's just a little stuff to get you stuck in the brain, And I think, I don't know, it worked really well. And yeah, visually, like, I don't know, my eyes are glued onto just everything that's on this. I don't know, like it it's so visually pleasing, but so simple at like the same time. I don't know how to like explain it. It is just like a good journalism in motion. Like I am just watching like a story unfold.
Yeah, man.
And yeah, so I don't know. I don't know how, like, what the scale is here critically.
Critically, I end up falling around an 8. And I think 8's my floor. But I don't have a huge range here. I think it's 8 to 8.25. I think it's in that range. It's a damn good movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't when we get to like 9s and stuff, I'm looking at like near perfect. You know what I'm saying? Like there's very little about this movie that could have been better. And I don't know what I would have changed to make this movie better. I just know that he has movies later that, in my opinion, are better. So like I have to have room to grow. And I think that an 8 it kind of ends up summing how I feel about this movie. I think that visually it was brilliant, but there's something he even like. There are points in this movie where he doesn't abandon his style, but he goes to that like handheld shaky cam every once in a while, like that part when like Gwyneth Paltrow and Owen Wilson are talking on that bridge that like is like an L shape, and it like keeps cutting back and forth between them. Like I thought that was impeccably well done, and that one doesn't actually abandon his style, but it was like the handheld shaky cam thing was interesting. Like whenever Chaz comes and wakes up his kids and is like, fire, there's a fire, we gotta go. You know, like that's not shot like your typical Wes Anderson thing. And in later movies, even a scene like that is shot like a typical Wes Anderson movie, which is difficult to do. But he finds a way to do it. And it's, so that's the thing where I'm like, that doesn't make this movie worse. It's just, I just know that it can be better. So 8 is about where I come down at.
Yeah, I think I'm around there too. I think I don't have many gripes with it at all, and like because I don't really know what else to compare it to with his other stuff. So like I don't really have that. But as far as like just other movies and how I enjoy it or how I think it's just well made compared to that, I mean, performed very well. Like I don't think I have a single performance where I'm like, man, they could have done a little bit better. And I think it is the strength of the director. It was written in a way that like just everyone kind of understood their character, and the moments that happened on screen like were very impactful. Actually meant, I don't know, I was very fulfilled, but I do think there is just a little room to grow. I do see that a little bit, but not by much. So I do think 8 would be fair.
All right, and what's that bring us to overall?
I guess I'll have to do a little Excel math. We'll do a little of that plus, because we're weighting it differently here, so I have to do that. Divided by 3. Now it would be an 8.1666666. So 82%.
82%, we'll say.
We'll go with that.
But yeah, 82. I like that. I think that that does sum up about how I feel. It is it's a little nicer than the IMDb rating, which has it at a 76. And Rotten Tomatoes, let's see what they've got this bad boy at. Alrighty, Rotten Tomatoes Royal Tenenbaums is at an 81%.
Okay. Yeah.
So we're right there, you know, which I can appreciate. 89% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, which is very strong.
Yeah.
Wes Anderson, very beloved by the people who like his movies, and these movies only get better and better, in my opinion. And man, I'm so happy that we're getting this rolling with an 82% for the Royal Tenenbaums.
Mm-hmm.
You got any parting thoughts before we push forth with this project, my man?
Let's see. We didn't forget a character, did we?
I think we covered all our bases.
We got everyone. Yeah. I don't think I have anything else.
All right. Then with that, we will conclude this episode of the Director's Spotlight. Wes Anderson is up. And man, 1 down, 7 to go. an 8th in Asteroid City. But I'm very, very excited. I'm so excited for that movie, and I'm so glad we're doing this in anticipation of that. But with that, if you would, head to patreon.com/PennyBloomPod, where you'll find over 50 hours of exclusive content, including all sorts of book reviews, comic book reviews, movie reviews, and the like. I've started writing again, and that's been very fulfilling, so I'm writing a lot of reviews. I've actually just recently posted up a first viewings list, and that was in writing, and that included the Grand Budapest Hotel and the French Dispatch, and what was it? I can't remember. There was one more. I don't know. There was 3. Oh, it was Bottle Rocket, another Wes Anderson movie, but it came before the Royal Tenenbaums. So those 3 were all included in my most recent first viewings writing, and it was very fun. It was very fun, and I'm a little bit behind. I watched these for the first time a couple months ago, and trying to catch up. So you got plenty of content coming your way over there for $3 a month. You can support this podcast financially, which is huge because it costs me money, and I don't make any off of it unless it's over there. If you're interested in our Director Spotlight project, we just did a whole hour of planning for it, including this Wes Anderson, and I won't spoil who it is, we already know who's going to be next, and we already know what we're going to do in the future, going all the way through August for the Director Spotlight. And that's only over at patreon.com right now, and I won't be announcing that until we're nearing the end of this Wes Anderson section. So if you want to know sooner than later, you can head on over there, especially if any of you are interested in joining us. If you're a big fan of Wes Anderson and you're excited to talk about his movies, hit me up, and we'll see what we can do. We'll see what we can arrange. We plan on recording a little bit this weekend, so we might be a couple weeks in advance, but if any of them sound appealing to you, or if you have a director that you want us to talk about, hit me up and let me know what you want to hear, because I love doing this. I want to get open to more directors. I'm already pretty open to a lot of them, but I want even more. I want more under my belt. So hit me up. Let me know what you want to hear us talk. And if we want to talk about it, we'll talk about it. If we don't, we'll talk about whatever the fuck we want. So sorry. But yeah, patreon.com/PennyBloomPod. Head to Twitter, follow at PennyBloomPod, follow on Instagram at PennyBloomPodcast. Remember to leave a 5-star rate and review wherever you might be listening. If you're fucking with me and Joe, we are currently rewatching Game of Thrones on Mondays. Season 3 just concluded this week, and Season 3, Episode 10, the finale of Season 3, and Season 4 starts next week. We are pushing right through that rewatch, and I'm so happy that we're doing that. We have been doing the comic book movie journey through film on Fridays. That is on pause for the next 4 weeks, as this Friday, the next Friday, the next Friday, and the next Friday, we'll be doing Wes Anderson. Nothing but Wes Anderson for the next few weeks in terms of Wednesdays and Fridays. This Friday brings us Wes Anderson's The Life Aquatic with 𝙍𝙊𝙔𝘼𝙀𝙀. And I'm very excited for that. We already have 20 comic book movies discussed, too. So it was actually kind of a sexy point to stop, which I didn't realize. It was exactly 20 weeks that we've been doing that. So I was like, okay, cool. Wasn't a bad place to stop. I like that.
Didn't mean to do that, but hey.
Yeah,
all right.
Shit happens. So yeah, 20 comic book movies. If you want to go, if you're a comic book movie fan, go ahead and check those out. You know, we contain multitudes. You know, we talk about any movie and every movie. We like movies, man. We're going to talk about it. So go ahead and check that out. I was Colton Robertson. I was joined by Joseph George. Thank you very much, homie.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
Oh, and it's always a pleasure to have you. And remember, peace, love, and bloom. And anybody interested in grabbing a couple of burgers and hitting the cemetery?